Hello everyone, welcome to Dnyanadeep. In this session, we are going to discuss one more UPSC mains question from geography section. Now, this is a question from 2023 mains. Let's look at the question. What question says? From being net food importer in 1960s, India has emerged as a net food exporter to the world. Provide reasons, right? So, if you look at this particular question, though this question has been asked in geography, we can trace back this question to history as well as to economics. So it's a blend of topics, something from geography, something from history, and something from economics. But we'll try to address most of the geographical aspects in this particular part, and we'll then also have to touch somewhere history or to the economy. Now, what are the key words we have to identify here? That India is being a net food exporter in present day and time, right? So, look at any major food grain or other agri products. Let's take example of rice, sugar, or any other such major food grains or agri products. By and large, we are exporting all these things. And this export of agri products or food grains is something seen as an achievement of Indian government or Indian agriculture. Now let us see what all we are supposed to write. Now when it comes to the introduction, in introduction there is absolutely nothing I can define. So obviously I will be introducing with some fact. Now, better the fact you have, better will be your introduction. Now, there are various ways in which you can introduce with this question. You can mention total exports or total exports of food grains which happen from India, or the contribution of agri exports to that of GDP. That can be another way of introducing. I have taken a thoda sa generic viewpoint. I am saying that it is one of the largest agri producer or one of the largest exporter of agri producers, and I also have mentioned what all important food grains or agri produce we export. Now we export a lot of rice, sugar and onion, so on and so forth. So this list is a never ending list, right? So this type of factual introduction needs to be present here. There is hardly any other way with which you can introduce. Your introduction will be strictly based on fact. Mention any fact, that is something which will go with the question. Now you can also mention some contradictions. See, before 1960s we used to import so and so much was there, or so and so products were imported, and now we are exporting. So that can also be a introduction. Now, having addressed the part of introduction, I will move on to the body part. Now, when it comes to body part, I have divided my body part into two categories, that is before 1960s and post 1960s. Now, what we are supposed to address, just reread the question. What question is saying? Question is asking, see, we used to be food importer and now we are food exporter, right? So 1960 is your dividing line. Before that we are importing, after that we are by and large exporting, and we have to provide reasons. Now what will happen, what mistake you are likely to do? You will provide reasons only for the export part. You see, post 1960 we are exporting a lot of agri produce or food grains for these reasons, and by and large your answer will remain somewhere around this. But an ideal answer has to address the part which is before 1960. Now if I read the question, there are clearly two parts. Okay, though we will tend to miss it, but it is saying there is a food import before 1960. So I will provide reason why we used to be food importer before 1960. Now, when we say India as a food importer before 1960, it dates back to colonial legacy. I am going into history. That is why I initially said that this is a question which is blend of history, geography and Indian economy. So there is a colonial legacy of agriculture. A lot has been said, a lot has been read by us. What kind of agriculture? Mostly cash crop based agriculture, right? And there was little incentive towards agriculture. There was not much of a remuneration which was coming out of agriculture. All these issues we see in colonial period, and that is somewhere we find that whatever crisis we faced post independence in terms of food grains or availability of food, the root cause of it somewhere we find in colonial legacy or colonial economic and agricultural practices. You will have to elaborate on this particular part. I have just given you a direction because a lot of things can be written, right? So whatever you can recall, please write it. Then when it comes to our agriculture, it is still monsoon dependent. Most of it or much of it is monsoon dependent. But when we talk about the condition before 1960, it was mostly monsoon dependent, right? There was hardly any irrigation which we could see, hardly any technology which was being used, and that is why this dependency on monsoon will result into a sort of uncertainty when it comes to India's food production. Then we had no infrastructure as well. Again, this is coming from colonial legacy. There was no development of Indian agricultural infrastructure, and ultimately what it resulted into, there was not enough production, and ultimately we had to import. So here I will give one example. You see, we also had to import through US's program. US had run a program, that is PL 480. Again, it goes back to post independence and all. So this is my part 1. So ideally you should also be mentioning PL 480, so on and so forth. Then post 60 we become food exporters. So why do we become food exporter? Green revolution. Much of the reason for our food exports, typically for rice, can be attributed to what? Green revolution. What green revolution did, that is something I have mentioned here. Then also we have to account for the minimum support price mechanism or India's public distribution system, because when it comes to MSP or PDS system, it resulted into assured prices, right? Because through MSP, minimum support price, farmers are getting assured prices for certain crops, and that is why they are growing those crops in a more quantity, and this ultimately results into what? There is assured production of food grains, right? So that is what I am going to say for post 1960. Similarly, we also have efforts for other agri products. There was contribution of land reforms, because land reforms led to efficient use of land and higher production. There was also focus on livestock. Once we attained a significant level when in terms of food grain production, we went to livestock production. Again, you can talk about pink revolution. You can also talk about other revolutions in the field of agriculture. Everything can be mentioned in this particular part. If we come to last 1 or 2 decades, we have better supply chains, we have better logistics, we have food processing capacity which has come in place, cold storages, so on and so forth has been introduced. So this is our present status or present efforts to ensure that there is a better food production and food export, right? So I have given you overview of what was there before 1960 and what has happened post 1960. I will draw one map. In the map I will show which are the states or which are the region which have contributed towards green revolution or food security of India or food exports of India. That can be one map. Another map can be drawn where I will show specific food products or agri products which are being exported. If I may talk about this particular region, I will talk about rice. If I talk about Maharashtra or even UP, I can talk about, let us say, sugarcane export here, onion and sugarcane export here, rice export here, right? So these type of maps can be drawn in this particular question. When it comes to conclusion, I will provide a way forward based conclusion. I'll say ki fine, a good achievement has been there, but we should also try for better development in agriculture. From food security, we have achieved food security. We have provided food security for at global level as well. That is something I can talk about here. Now I will further talk about the nutrition. Merely availability of food is not enough. I'll say ki let us work towards producing such agri produces which will provide you holistic nutrition. Food fortification is the way forward we have to take. So these can be various lines with which I can conclude. Then that is what I am saying here, that I will suggest some measures for human development also. So that is how I am going to answer this particular question, that is regarding India being net food importer to India being net food exporter. So that was all about today's question. We'll see you in next question. Thank you.